You know, they say that when black folks attack black folks, you're pretty much selling out. Doesn't that mean I've been sold out when you consider the attacks that have been placed against me? Think about that. I will. I'll make you think about it in a second. That and some NBA playoff action, and then some. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show coming your way right now. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you at the very least 3 days a week over the digital airwaves of YouTube. As always is my custom, I take a moment to thank my subscribers, my followers, because we've now eclipsed over 635,000 subscribers, and we continue to grow and climb each and every single day. Can't thank y'all enough for the love and support. Keep it coming, and I'm going to keep on coming. That last line when I talked about love and support is not something that I'm feeling today. It's not something that I have been feeling over the last week and a half or so, courtesy of the attacks that have been placed against me. I made a concerted effort to keep quiet, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. But my silence has come to an end. I've had enough of this. And there's certain times and there's certain people that need to be addressed. And I'm going to address it by forewarning everybody. No one is responsible for the words that are going to come out of my mouth in the next few minutes other than me. Don't look to anybody else for culpability but me. I got a whole lot to say. And I got names to attach to it. Nevertheless, one of those names is somebody I'm going to talk to. And that's going to be star and host for the show All the Smoke. That is the one and only Matt Barnes, who co-hosts that show with Steven Jackson, a.k.a. Stack. And Matt Barnes agreed to come on this show because Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes obviously had a lot to say about me on their podcast, especially Steven Jackson. I personally reached out and extended an invitation to both of them to come on to the show. Only one accepted, and that was Mr. Matt Barnes. So I'm looking forward to talking to him in a few moments, and that should be very, very interesting conversation. Needless to say, they had something to say about me and my comments about Donald Trump and black folks, along with my purportedly calling into the NBA league office about Russell Westbrook being suspended in the aftermath of his performance last Friday in Game 3, where I thought that he was acting out of pocket. We'll get into all of that because Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, along with many, many others, had a lot to say, and I got a lot of respect for Matt Barnes, and I really appreciate him coming on to confront me to my face instead of chirping over the social media airwaves when you got my number and you know I damn sure ain't hard to find. Nevertheless, before I get into any of that, let me take a moment to get into the NBA playoffs last night because the New York Knicks ended the season for the Philadelphia 76ers, and they were led by Villanova triplets Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, and Josh Hart, who scored or assisted on 110 of the New York Knicks' 118 points. Jalen Brunson was absolutely sensational with 41 points. Obviously, the New York Knicks gave me a heart attack because they were up 22 points in the first quarter, ended up being down by a few and a half. They let that lead evaporate, but were ultimately able to grind it out and win over the Philadelphia 76ers, ending this first round series in 6 games. There you see it, Jalen Brunson, 41 points, 13 to 27 shooting, 12 assists, just 2 turnovers. He was absolutely sensational. One of the top 5 players in the history of the New York Knicks franchise over the last 50 years easily. Major love, respect, and kudos to him. The New York Knicks, I'm a little bit worried these days compared to what I was feeling when they first opened the playoff series because I'm looking at their struggles offensively and I'm not satisfied. I mean, at times last night, you could see Jalen Brunson taking the ball, getting the ball in his hands, and you saw others giving it to him like the damn basketball was hot potatoes. They were scared. That worried me because that's not going to suffice against the Indiana Pacers. I'm here to tell you that right now, but I'll get into all of that in a minute. Props to Jalen Brunson. As for the Philadelphia 76ers, Tyrese Maxey is a superstar in this league. He deserves max dollars, and the franchise needs to evolve around him. Not because he's better than Embiid, because Embiid is one of the greatest big men we've ever seen from a talent perspective in the history of basketball. But he's perpetually injured. His durability is not reliable. And if I am the Philadelphia 76ers, I keep Embiid because his versatility is that sublime and he's that big time. But I evolve it around Maxey because Maxey is younger and he's more reliable and he's more durable. I'm going to assume that he's going to be more available to me than Joel Embiid would. So I'm going to make sure that the pieces I evolve around him fit to serve Maxey and let Joel Embiid adjust rather than forcing Maxey to adjust to parts tailor-made for Joel Embiid to be around. Tobias Harris, you in the last year of your deal, my brother. You scored 0 points in a closeout game 6. That is not a good look. I got love for you. I'm going to leave it at that, but damn, bro. 0 with your skill set, your size, your ability, 0, 2 shots. I know Nick Nurse could have called the ball for you, called it for you more, but still. That's unacceptable. And I will point the finger. I think Nick Nurse is a damn good coach. He's a champion. Won a championship in Toronto with Kawhi Leonard and all of that. Let me tell you where I think Nick Nurse made a mistake. Buddy Hield comes off the bench after scoring 2 points for the series in the first 5 games. Buddy Hield comes off the bench and scores 17 points in the first half. What the hell was he sitting down for the second half for? You got to start him in the second half. You got to let him come out and continue to wreak havoc. What Nick Nurse did instead was let Joel Embiid get going. And by letting Joel Embiid get going, everybody else stood around and watched. And suddenly, Buddy Hield, who was shooting threes from all over the damn place in the first half, only made 1 in the second half. And as a result, he only scored 3 points in the second half, and he finished with what he finished with, and the 76ers are going home. And the New York Knicks are advancing. But it is what it is. Heading over to the Milwaukee Bucks-Indiana Pacers matchup, where Doc Rivers, this is going to be the headline, he's lost yet another playoff series. Fair or unfair, that's what they're going to say. Milwaukee made a second straight first-round exit, was first under Rivers, the Bucks' third coach in 12 months. Doc's record did not match up with his predecessor, Adrian Griffin, who was 30-13 when he got fired. Doc Rivers is 17-19 in the regular season before being ousted in 6 games in the first round. Milwaukee played again without 2-time league MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, but Damian Lillard returned, okay? He returned after missing the last game with a strained right Achilles tendon. He scored 28 points and 7 of 16 shooting. You can't measure Doc now. You just can't do it. Now, we know 2-time All-Star Tyrese Halliburton finished with 17 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. Pascal Siakam now added 19.7 rebounds. TJ McCollum, he had 20 points off the bench. That was impressive to see. But here's what we got to pay attention to. You can't judge Doc Rivers because he didn't have Giannis and Dame together, available. And he took over the team in midseason. That was not his squad. Okay, the coaching staff isn't ideal. You know he's going to tweak his coaches. He's going to tweak the roster to some degree. We know this. Next season will be Doc Rivers' last if he gets bounced out early. And I think his coaching career will be over. As a head coach, that is. I think it will be over. So that's what we're looking at when we talk about Doc Rivers. And that's just the way that it is. That's just the way that it is. He got to win next year. I knew they weren't going to win this year, and I knew we shouldn't expect them to win this year. But next year is a different animal. And I've been on the mindset that if Damian Lillard is not happy, trade him. Because you don't have cap space, and you don't have young bodies. You got to get younger. You got to get healthier. You need additional bodies. Brook Lopez probably needs to go. Chris Middleton probably needs to go. Keep Bobby Portis, keep Connaughton, keep Giannis. But if Damian Lillard is not happy in Milwaukee, if he'd prefer to be somewhere else, do what you can to get him out. This brother's a star. Damian Lillard's a closer. We know how big time he is. But I think happiness matters. He's a professional. He'll perform. He'll do what he has to do if he can't go anywhere. But if you can get him someplace else and get comparable assets for him, do it. Staying within that game, but moving on to a different story. We can't avoid the subject involving Patrick Beverley, who let his frustrations out as he threw a ball twice into the crowd late in the Bucs season and then lost to the Pacers. Beverley initially threw a ball into the stands that hit a woman, by the way, who didn't appear to be his intended target. So it's fair to say that. But he hit her in the head. When another fan tossed the ball back to him, he responded by throwing it hard at that fan, which means that's who he was originally targeting to begin with. In a post on X, Beverley wrote, quote, "I have to be better," after a video of the incident circulated online. Then after the game, things got worse. He made more waves by refusing to address a reporter because she does not subscribe to his podcast.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Before I finish. Yeah. You subscribe to my pod?
Do I subscribe to you? I do not.
So you can't interview me then. No disrespect.
Well, Jamal is here.
You subscribe? Okay, cool. Yeah. That's cool.
It was an incredibly, incredibly bad look because there's more footage than that. When he was telling her to move the mic, et cetera, and it was the only woman there he treated like that. Everybody else seemed to be males. I believe her name is Melinda Adams, works for ESPN, a field producer, does an exceptional job for ESPN, by the way. It's an incredibly, incredibly bad look for Patrick Beverley. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. And you can bet the house he's going to get suspended. Even though it probably won't kick until the next season, you can bet the house it's going to cost him a significant chunk of money because he threw the basketball not once but twice. You can't do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I know Patrick Beverley for a decade. I love the brother. I really, really do. Straight shooter, hardcore brother from Chicago, good peoples. I know his mama. Wonderful woman. Wonderful. His family is inner circle, the whole bit. And he's fiery, and he's highly competitive, and all of that stuff. But you cannot do that. And by the way, I have to do better, really. You got to be more elaborative than that. Huge mistake on Patrick Beverley's part. Huge mistake. Inexcusable. No reason for it. Punishment is imminent. Well-deserved. Now let's look to the Pacers and Knicks. Two teams, of course, had many spirited playoff series in the 90s during the Reggie Miller era. They last met in the postseason in 2013. A Pacers 6-game victory in the second round, by the way. Game 1 will be Monday night at Madison Square Garden. Pacers beat the New York Knicks 2 of the 3 times they faced one another this year. I'm worried. Now I'm going with the Knicks in 7. I am. But I got to tell you, I'm scared a little bit. Pacers can shoot. I watched the Pacers against the Bucks in Game 2 the other night. I was watching the game for 20 minutes, y'all. They didn't miss. They didn't miss. Like 5, 6 different people shooting the damn basketball. Not one of them missed a shot from the perimeter. These brothers can shoot. So I'm concerned. And you know Thibodeau ain't going to go more than 8 deep. So the Pacers going to try to push the ball up the court, going to try to wear the Knicks down. Knicks got to rebound. Knicks got to slow the pace and control the pace. Otherwise, Pacers can take them. But I'm still going to pick my Knicks. I ain't going against them. I've come too far to jump off now. I've come too far to jump off now. Ladies and gentlemen, some breaking news. By the time you hear this, it won't be breaking news. The Lakers are looking for a new head coach. Darvin Ham is out as head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers following 2 seasons at the helm. His first year on the job, won 43 games, took them to the Western Conference Finals, where they ultimately got swept by the Denver Nuggets. This past season, he took them to the postseason again. They got through the play-in tournament, ended up being the 7th seed, went against Denver in the first round. Lost. Didn't get swept this time. Got swept last year. This time he lost in 5 games. In his 2 seasons, 90 and 74. There you see it. 2 playoff appearances, 1 conference finals appearances, no finals appearances. Lost 12 of the last 13 games against Denver. Here's the sad part about this on a couple of levels. It's widely recognized that if the Lakers hadn't drawn Denver, the Lakers could be going to the conference finals because they would beat anybody else that they played in the eyes of a lot of people. Denver was the worst possible matchup they could have had, and it is what it is. I'm sad for Darvin Ham because I don't think he deserves to be fired. I don't think the roster that he was given was ideal. I think Anthony Davis calling him out sealed his fate after their loss in Game 2 in Denver. When he said we just seemed a bit disorganized, not together. You can't say that about a coach. When you say that about a coach, dies cast, days are numbered. That's just the way it goes. And I don't think there's a way to get around that personally. That's my personal opinion. I'm sad for Darvin Ham, but I think he'll be all right. I just don't think he deserved this. Darvin Ham, remember, they win the championship in the bubble. And then they decide that they want to move on from Kyle Kuzma and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Alex Caruso. Frank Vogel goes thereafter because the Russell Westbrook experiment doesn't work out there. And then after that, Darvin Ham comes on board. Darvin Ham comes on board. He inherits Russell Westbrook. He wants to bring Russell Westbrook off the bench. It's Armageddon. It's dissension. It's noise and chaos there. Russell Westbrook departs, ends up landing with the Los Angeles Clippers, coming off the bench eventually, and look at how good he looked coming off the bench for the Clippers. So I just think those are the kind of things that you got to consider. I'm sad for Darvin Ham. I don't think this is deserved at all. But I'm not surprised. The only thing that would suffice this for me, make this okay, is if Ty Lue ends up leaving as coach of the Clippers to come take over the Lakers, which I sincerely doubt the Clippers will allow to happen. I know that the Phoenix Suns wanted Ty Lue last year. They couldn't get him, and that's why they settled on Frank Vogel. It wouldn't surprise me if they wanted him again this year. I think the Clippers would let him, with Ty Lue still having a year available on his contract, I think the Clippers would let him get away to Phoenix before they let him go down the hallway to the Lakers, even though they won't be down the hallway come next season. They'll be moving into their new arena. Personally speaking, I feel sorry for Steve Ballmer, the billionaire owner for the Clippers, because Kawhi Leonard is the absolute worst superstar you could possibly have. He is a superstar player when he's on the court. The problem is he misses more than 40% of his games during the regular season and more than 30% of his games during the postseason. And he does absolutely positively nothing to promote the sport. He just doesn't. So I do think that's problematic. I do think that's unfortunate. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And I also want to put this out there. He's a player development guy. I know that. Phil Handy has been an assistant coach in Cleveland, Toronto, and LA. Each place he's been, they've won championships. When's he going to get his shot at the crown? When is Phil Handy going to get an opportunity to be a head coach in the NBA level? It really, really would be nice. It really, really would be nice to see him get that chance, to get that opportunity. That's all I have to say about that. Have you all been watching the NBA playoffs? I'm sure you have. But do you know what makes watching them even more exciting? Prize Picks, that's right. With a big game happening every night, Prize Picks is here to help you cash in on all your basketball knowledge. You see, Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app where you can select two or more of your favorite players and then pick more or less on their projected in-game stats. But Prize Picks doesn't stop with basketball. You can choose from several sports, the MLB, NHL, the MMA, and everything in between. I make my picks and submit early, all in less than 60 seconds. Then I sit back and I chill and watch. And get this, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. You heard me, right? Go to prizepicks.com and use code SAS, that's my initials, of course, for a first time or a first deposit match of up to $100. That's SAS when you go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code. Pick more, pick less. Guess what? It's that easy. Now, let me turn my attention to a subject that I didn't plan on turning my attention to because, to be quite honest with you, I don't even know who the hell this person is. I mean, I know he used to play in Major League Baseball and stuff like that, closing in Boston, in Philadelphia for a few years, when I wasn't there, by the way, all this other stuff. But it's me feeling the need to turn my attention to former MLB pitcher Jonathan Papelbon, who launched a quote-unquote blistering attack against me after my recent comment about Mike Trout's injury, when I talked about his history of being hurt and why he can't stay healthy for a full baseball season. Evidently, when I was on the air with Mad Dog Christopher Russo on Wednesday, and we had a quick take about Mike Trout, and I basically talked about, damn, the man is always injured. Can I get you on the field? You know, maybe you're hurt because you're in a damn Angels uniform all the damn time. I don't know what the hell is going on. When I brought that up, apparently Major League Baseball or the baseball community were in an uproar, and folks felt the need to address me. Before I respond, let you listen to what the hell this dude had to say about me.
I know this guy, actually, and I knew him, or I knew of him before he was, Stephen A. Smith. I don't even understand why he needs an A. I've always looked at this guy like a complete joke, and really is just real shady guy. I mean, this guy is more narcissistic than Donald Trump. I mean, you're talking about one of the most narcissistic people you could come across. And the fact that he uses his middle name as A, which probably stands for asshole, is such a joke to me. I look at him in three things. I look at him as a racist. I look at him as a xenophobic. I look at him as a fake person. Like, I'm saying stuff just to simply be popular or get views. For him to do this, man, it just really shows his ignorance. And this guy really is dumb, y'all.
Jonathan Papelbon. First, let me start. I think that when people bring up the word racist, if they looked at you and I sitting together, I think they would look at you before they looked at me. I've never talked about you. You're irrelevant. At least until today. I don't need clicks, sir. You know that. Because you know I have the #1 sports morning show on television for the last 12 years and counting. You know that. I don't talk about baseball much, but I didn't see Rob Manfred on your show. He's well mine. Has he invited you to his office to talk baseball and to have lunch? I suspect not. I didn't even know you were a guest on a podcast or a contributor to a podcast until this morning. But I can go tit for tat with you. What I won't do is disrespect you to the degree that you just disrespected me. So let's just go this one by one. You said you don't know me. You don't really know me. But you called me a racist. I assume the xenophobia comment, and I'm proud that you actually know what that means, stems from me speaking about Shohei Ohtani. When I spoke out of turn, I was criticized for it. I deserved to be criticized for it. A matter of fact, Jeff Passan, along with others, came on First Take to speak out against me. Remember, June Lee, a baseball writer for ESPN, they both came on the show. If you will recall, because I'm assuming you do a little homework, I'm the executive producer on the show. They're not on the show if I don't want them on the show. But you see, when you're a man and you know you're wrong, you man up. And that's what I did. Because I was wrong. You know what I'm not wrong about? Calling you a liar. You don't know me. What do you mean I was thrown out of a Major League Baseball clubhouse? I have been a reporter and a sports commentator for 30 years. That has never happened in any sport. I've never been thrown out of a locker room. I've never been thrown out of a clubhouse. I've never had any discipline action exacted against me because I have never been professionally unethical in my career. That is a lie. Now, I could sue your ass for lying, telling such a lie like that. But I won't. I won't waste my time. You don't have to worry about that, bro. That's a lie. And I challenge anybody from the Phillies organization, from any organization, for any professional sports team in this nation to say that there's any validity to what you echoed. 30 years, my brother, Google me. Do your homework. New York Daily News, Philadelphia Inquirer, CNN, Fox Sports, ESPN. It has never happened. Ever. Ever. I've known some of the dudes you called your teammate. You got there after I departed from Philadelphia. How we walked by one another. I wasn't in the Philadelphia clubhouse when you were there. If I remember correctly, you didn't arrive until 2012. I was gone from the Philadelphia Inquirer in 2010. What you talking about? You in Boston. What you gonna say next? I showed up at Fenway? Really? Really? You're lying. You are lying, sir. We don't know each other. We've never spoken to each other. I have no reason to speak to you. And if you are so big, bad, and bold, because you could play, I saw the numbers. I'm familiar with you. You won the scrub. But if you're so big, bad, and bold, and you're so sure of yourself, and I was that kind of a guy, then how come you never said anything? Because you're lying. We've never had an issue. I don't know you. I've never talked to you. And I certainly have never been removed from a clubhouse or a locker room. I've never stole anything. The last time I stole something was when I was 10 years old at Saul's Delicatessen on 203rd Street and Hollis Avenue. I got caught trying to steal a bag of sugar, Skittles. And he told my mama and she whipped my butt. And I've never stolen again. Ever. What are you talking about? I understand that now that your baseball career is over, you're pretty irrelevant. And as a result of that, you have aspirations to get at me. Because I'm going to get you the clicks that you said I'm already trying to get. By the way, I've been getting them without you. I have over 14 million social media followers. I own and operate this podcast / show. Plus, I got a day job. I never talked about you. What you talk about me for? You and your compatriots, whoever the hell they are. No disrespect, but y'all are disrespectful. Why are we being all sensitive about Mike Trout? What did I say exactly about Mike Trout? This is one of the greatest players in the history of baseball. Did I not utter that out of my mouth? Have I not said that I'm a huge fan of Mike Trout, which I've said on many, many occasions? Have I not acknowledged that Mike Trout is one of the greatest baseball players in the history of this sport? What I said was, damn, I'm tired of seeing him not work. I'm tired of seeing him at games sitting in the stands, at a football game or something like that. I want to see this brother on the field because he's one of the most sensational players we've ever seen. That's what I said. He's missed 280 of 517 games since 2021. That's 54% of his games. He's owed $35.45 million each season through 2030. He's been in the league for more than a decade. He doesn't have one single postseason win. And we know that he can't do it by himself. So what I was saying was, damn, maybe he need to leave Anaheim. Because Mad Dog Russo was saying, I love it when players stay, work through it, build within. I said, no, let that man go elsewhere because he's too great to be at home in September and October watching postseason action with us. Where's the crime? Why y'all sitting there acting like I just finished talking about your daddy? I want to see him play because he's great. That's it. Nothing more. So I joked around about it being karma, that he's probably injured because he's contaminated by an Angels franchise that hasn't been in the postseason since 2015. It's been damn near 10 years since they played in October. In Los Angeles, they talk about the Dodgers. The Angels are an afterthought. And because I mentioned that, you will go on the air, Papelbon, knowing nothing about me, and you would call me a racist. I'm a black man. We have a history of experiencing racism. And a lot of times those experiences come courtesy of people who look like you. And I would never think to call you a racist. What you said is wrong, is irresponsible, is petty, and if it was to get a reaction, is desperate. Because now that you don't have your playing career to lean on anymore, I guess you need help in other areas. That's about the most you're going to get from me. Be a grown-up, bro. The things that you said about me sound like a damn racist. And I still wouldn't call you that unless I was sure. Now to the world of boxing. Ryan Garcia tested positive for the performance-enhancing substance Ostarine the day before and the day of his upset win over Devin Haney last month per a voluntary anti-doping association letter sent Wednesday. The urine samples were collected prior to the fight, but the results weren't known until later. Garcia has 10 days to request that his B sample be tested. Garcia's A sample also screened positive for 19 norandrosterone, but its presence is unconfirmed until further lab analysis. Garcia responded on Instagram with this video. Take a look.
What's up, everybody? I came on here to address this bull fucking shit claim that I cheated.
Lies.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that I don't cheat. What can I say? Why didn't they come out with this before, the fight? If they found it before, why would they let me step into the ring as a cheater and then come out with the victory and then they post this, Again, these are people that are trying to attack me for whatever reason, but no weapon against me shall prosper. I never taken steroid. I don't even know where to get steroids at the end of the day. I barely, take supplements.
Not so fast, Ryan Garcia. You can't blame Haney, and his team for an anti-doping test you voluntarily took. You chose to take that test. What that got to do with Devin Haney and his team? That's on you. That's number one. Number two, I am a fan of Ryan Garcia. I think that Ryan Garcia has the look. He has the vernacular. He has the presentation where if this dude won in the boxing ring, he could promote the sport in ways most people couldn't in this country. So I was rooting for him to win. Even though I love me some Devin Haney as well, he just doesn't have that knockout power, box office appeal. He's a sensational boxer, but he doesn't have that knockout power, that box office appeal. And Ryan Garcia does. So because of that, I was of the mindset that this would be a good fight, but Ryan Garcia, that power, that left hook, if Haney was going to beat him, he would have to outbox him, unless Ryan Garcia caught him. What I saw when I went into the ring, Ryan, was not just your quickness, not just your power, but your overall strength over Devin Haney, who was at 140. Ryan Garcia, you hadn't been fighting at 140. You weren't walking around a natural 140 all the time. I understand you walk around that way. I'm talking about when you got in the ring. You looked incredibly more powerful than him. The one good punch he caught you with in the third round made you pound your fist and say, let's go, let's go, let's go. You were toying with him. We didn't expect that. We saw you get dropped by a liver shot from Gervonta Davis, even though Devin Haney ain't no Gervonta Davis. We also saw you, Ryan Garcia, get into the ring 3 pounds, or come to the weigh-in 3 pounds overweight. You showed no regard for the discipline the sport is required, the discipline the sport requires. You were supposed to fight for the belt at 140. You said you didn't give a damn about the belt, that you wasn't going to do what happened to you against Gervonta Davis with your dehydration clause. And so as a result of that, you were going to come into the ring whatever weight you wanted. And you shook hands with him and agreed to pay $500,000 per pound you were overweight, and reportedly wrote a check for $1.5 million to this man to come in there fully loaded, full strength, even though you were no longer eligible to fight for the title just because you couldn't shave 3 pounds off yourself. That doesn't sound like somebody who's disciplined enough to do whatever it takes to be as legitimate as possible and follow the rules and regulations. Now, does that mean you did steroids? No. We have to wait until the B sample comes in. We have to get, I prefer to give you the benefit of the doubt, but the fact of the matter is, Ryan Garcia, you don't necessarily deserve it based on your behavior leading up to the fight and how you showed up at the weigh-in, completely disregarding the weight clause. Sean Porter and Clarissa Shields did a marvelous job pre-fight, post-fight coverage. And one of the things they emphasized was that those 3 pounds were legit. It matters. It's a significant thing. Do you realize that Devin Haney should not have even walked into the ring with Ryan Garcia? You were the undefeated champion, 30-0, 15 KOs, undefeated, not a blemish on your record. You walked into that ring. That man didn't meet the requirements for your belt. So as a result, you got in the ring with him, but you didn't have the title on the line, but you still had your reputation on the line. Devin Haney should have said, I'm out to fight. I'm walking out. If you don't meet the 140-pound limit for the weigh-in, I am not fighting you. That's what Devin Haney didn't say. He should have said it, but he didn't. And now look at this full screen quote that Devin Haney responded to with ESPN, or the statement to ESPN. Quote, we learned about this situation not too long ago, and it's unfortunate Ryan cheated and disrespected both the fans and the sport of boxing by fighting dirty and breaking positive not once but twice. I've always been an advocate for clean fighting, and this is an example of such. Ryan owes the fans an apology, and by his recent tweet, he still thinks this is a joke. We put our lives on the line to entertain people for a living. You don't play boxing. This puts the fight in a completely different light. Despite the disadvantage, I still fought on my shield and got back up. People die in this sport. This isn't a joking matter. Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney is not wrong with that quote. He's not wrong. I love Ryan Garcia. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope this isn't true. I hope he overcomes this. I hope his career continues to go forward unblemished so he can give me the fight that I want to see against Teofimo Lopez and a rematch against Gervonta Davis. But the fact of the matter is you put yourself in this position because based on the way you were acting leading up to the fight and your refusal to meet the weight clause conditions for the 140-pound title, you already displayed your undisciplined nature from there. We can't give you the benefit of the doubt because you told us you didn't give a shit. That's just the truth, bro. That's just the truth. Devin Haney should have never gotten in the ring with you. I don't know if his career will ever be deemed the same after that beating he took. And it was clearly because you were the bigger, stronger fighter. Why were you that bigger and stronger? Devin Haney believes he knows why. And so do millions of people out there, regardless of what you say. Hell, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And it's a struggle. But it would be safe to say that I'm in a minority. It's just the truth, bro. It's just the truth. Coming up, CNN correspondent Bakari Sellers, comedian D.L. Hughley, and NBA player Steven Jackson all took me to task recently. I'll tell you why, and I'll address it. By the way, so did Matt Barnes, and he'll be joining me live next to hash it all out. You don't want to miss this part of the show. The Stephen A. Smith Show. Trust me when I tell you, don't touch that dial. Okay, everybody, you know what time it is. It's time for Stephen A's Weekly Picks. If you already haven't heard, I've teamed up with the biggest fantasy sports game in all the land, Prize Picks, to bring you my favorite sports predictions. Prize Picks is a skill-based fantasy game where you select 2 or more players and predict if they'll have more or less than their stat projections for the game. It's not only easy to make your picks, but incredibly fast, and you can do it in less time than it takes for Caitlin Clark to pull up and hit a game-winning 3. Pick the stats for Luka, Ohtani, or even Canelo Alvarez, and then sit back and watch, by the way. You can't miss it. Trust me, you can't miss it. So go to prizepicks.com and use promo code SAS for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's right. Go to prizepicks.com, type in my initials SAS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. And if you go to the Prize Picks apps, you'll be able to see my picks for today. And in honor of the start of this highly anticipated WNBA season, I will be picking season-long predictions for players in the WNBA. And if you do the same, your entry will be boosted in the Prize Picks promo tab. I can't wait for the season to start, y'all. I just can't wait. So check it out today. Now let's look at today's winning picks. Caitlin Clark, more or less than 21.5 points per game for the season. She's a sniper. She's a shooter. And she's going to have the green light because she's the star attraction. It's going to be more than 21.5 points per game. I'm going with more. The next one. Asia Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces, the champion Las Vegas Aces. More or less than 21 points per game for the season. She's the face of the league. She's big time. She's a champion, and very few people can stop her, and the team is loaded. I'm going with more for Asia Wilson. More than 21 points per game. Breanna Stewart. Let's get to her. More or less 21.5 points per game for the season. We know she could play too. We can't sleep on her, New York Liberty. I got to go with her as well. Let's go with that. Let's go with more for Breanna Stewart and New York stand up. New York stand up. The Knicks are going to contaminate her in a very positive way. And the level of success they enjoy, and she's going to enjoy some of it too. That's what that's all about, all right? Last but not least, Brittany Griner. The one and only Brittany Griner. Now that the whole Russian debacle and everything else is going by the wayside, and she's back in the States and doing her thing and really, really focused on playing basketball this upcoming season. More or less 18.5 points per game for the season. I'm going to say less. I think she's going to average about 17 a game, but I think Brittany Griner is going to make noise with rebounding and blocking shots as opposed to points. So that's where I'm at with it, all right? Caitlin Clark, Asia Wilson, Breanna Stewart. More. Brittany Griner. Less. But we usually go the more route with Stephen A. You know why? Because I like the word more. Because it always applies to me. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show over the digital airwaves of YouTube. I tried to be cool. I really did. But so be it. It seems several people have had some things to say about some of my recent comments regarding politics. One of them is CNN correspondent Bakari Sellers, who recently published a book called The Moment, Thoughts on the Race Reckoning That Wasn't and How We All Can Move Forward Now. For those of you who may not know, Sellers is an attorney and a politician who served in the South Carolina House of Representatives from 2006 to 2014. In the book, he had some critical observations about me, about Ice Cube, and about somebody, let's just say I'm just not going to mention his name, all right? Here's some of what Sellers has to say about me. Sometimes it's people who look like us, the Ice Cubes of the world, the Stephen A. Smiths, and the other who will remain nameless. Black men who willingly disseminated disinformation just to receive a hug from white conservatives. Why do it? I don't know. But they remind me of Samuel L. Jackson's character hugging Leonardo DiCaprio's cruel slave plantation owner in Django Unchained. Wow. Are they really doing it for the clicks? Truth is, I'm still not sure why they crave the white gaze so much. But I would love for the early 1990s Ice Cube to write a rap about today's Ice Cube. I would love for the Winston-Salem alums to critique the Stephen A. Smith of today. Smith, Cube, and that other dude have become a staple of misinformation and disinformation. That they crave attention so much that they will push out half-truths and lies about black men proves one very important truth. The situation we are in is far more complex than we thought. It's a conundrum that we must be strong and push back against, whether the lies are coming from Russia or from our own. You know, I'm going to touch on a bigger subject, but let me just pause for a second. That dude, Bakari Sellers, has a book talking about moving forward. And that's how you come at people. And you would look at another brother and compare him to Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django. What's your possible justification for that? And if you were so appalled by the mere existence of people like me, why were you and your team trying to get you on my show to promote your book? Care to answer that? Do we really want to go there? I just want you to think about that for a second. And about the fact that you being a contributor to CNN, how come they call me more than you? And you get paid by them. I'm going to leave you to think about that before I get back to you. Let me move on to the next person, because last week, comedian D.L. Hughley was a guest on Big Boy TV, hosted by legendary Los Angeles radio personality Big Boy. Among the topics discussed were my comments from the recent interview I did on Fox News' Hannity with Sean Hannity. Here was what DL had to say in response to what he thought I said.
What insults me is when you say something and pretend like you didn't say it. We heard what you said. Then you said, they taking me out of context. Show me what it is that you said that was different than I perceived you saying. Right. You said it, right? You said that black people relate to Donald Trump. How? If I know a black dude who in his 70s, close to 80s, is still committing crime, I'm not hanging out with that nigga. It says more about what you think is relatable and what you perceive as relatable. It says more about you than it does about him. Once you got convicted of raping somebody, I can't fuck with you. I don't care who you are. When you make those kind of broad statements, what you're saying is, from my perspective, from my vantage point, these people think this. Who are you hanging around that thinks an old fraudulent rapist is relatable to you? Who is in your sphere that you think that's okay? Don't be a pussy and tell me you didn't say it. You did.
So I'm a pussy now. That's what D.L. Hughley's saying, right? Okay. I'll deal with him in a second, too. Because D.L. Hughley was not the only person who took issue with my comments. The fellas over at All the Smoke, that podcast, All the Smoke, Matt Barnes will be on in a few minutes. Steven Jackson won't. Turned down my personal invitation. Didn't show up, didn't answer. But they had something to say on their podcast. Listen to this.
Starting off with, said blacks in America can relate to Trump because of, you know, the how he's being harassed and arrested and all this kind of shit, which is wild as fuck. And then he tried to go back and correct us and tell us what he said, or what he didn't say, but everyone heard what he did say. And the shit was so outlandish that motherfucking Shitlock agreed with them.
If you was on a corner with 10 brothers in your neighborhood, you wouldn't have said that. You wouldn't have had the balls to say black people relate to Trump. You wouldn't have said that in front of your people, in a room full of your people. You said that on TV because you're comfortable there, and that's the narrative that they want you to pay because somebody probably told you to say that. Bro, I'm not the most intelligent person, but I told you I'm first team common sense. That's why you say these things on TV. So that's why people look at you funny and don't give you the respect. Everything that me and Matt will say on here, we'll say in any barbershop, on any corner, in front of any setting, in front of anybody, because that's how we truly feel. Nobody's telling us to certain things.
You know, I was glad I took a deep breath and didn't immediately respond to a bunch of this noise, because it's just counterproductive at times to just go nuclear, like I'm very, very capable of doing. And I'm not going to do that now. In the case of Bakari Sellers, I don't know him. I know that I respect his work. I know that I respect what he strives to do for the African American community. He's a graduate of Morehouse. He's a graduate of law school in South Carolina. He's a highly intelligent man. To be a legislator at the age of 22, beating a 26-year incumbent to achieve that goal, I'm not here to denigrate that man. I'm here to say that his denigration of me was very, very excessive. Matter of fact, so much so that I'm going to tell you that the person's name that I didn't want to mention, or I said will remain nameless, I'll say it for the issue, for the purpose of professionalism, Jason Whitlock. It was Ice Cube, Stephen A., and Jason Whitlock. There you have it. I say that about Bakari Sellers because here is my point, and I'm going to say this one last time. Sean Hannity, the show that I was on with Sean Hannity asked me the same question that Chris Cuomo had asked me just a half hour earlier on News Nation that same night. And what they alluded to was not black people. It was people who were supporting Trump who happened to be black. And they were asking me about those individuals and what do you think is happening that those people are supporting Trump. I was answering a question about the black Trump supporters, which clearly I am not. Didn't vote for Trump, ain't voting for Trump. I believe he's divisive and he will cause civil war in this country. I believe that the presidency is a statesman's position. And if you're not committed to bringing everyone together, then you're not somebody that should be sitting in that office. And you have to have the professionalism, the decorum, and the decency to conduct business across both sides of the aisle in order to get things done. That is my belief. And by statesmen, that you have to be the kind of individual that can be served up as a role model for others to follow from a societal perspective in terms of how we want to conduct ourselves so we can be decent instead of anarchy and mayhem taking place in the streets. I'm not voting for Trump. I've been on the record. 4 indictments, 91 counts, impeached twice, numerous cases against him. Have a lot of them, to me, amounted to much ado about nothing? Yes. What have I been crying about? I don't want you to lose to him. I want you to implement a strategy that I think will work. If you're going to get on me about that. Get on me about me saying your strategy is not working. Bakari Sellers didn't do that because he's caught up in the sauce just like everybody else. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we can talk all of this stuff until the cows come home. I have the right to say what I want to say. I apologize for it being misconstrued and misinterpreted, but it's ultimately on me because I'm the one who opened my mouth. And if I'm not going to speak cogently and clearly enough, then I got to own it. I accept that. I got a show that comes on 2 hours a day. I speak 10 hours a week live, minimum. That doesn't include Sports Center. It doesn't include NBA Countdown. It doesn't include the inordinate amount of appearances that I make. It doesn't include this podcast. I'm not going to say the right thing every time. I'm not going to echo the right syllable and the right diction and the right tenor. My bad. My bad. But to use something like that, to go on a breakfast club like Bakari Sellers did and to question my intellect. Wow. I thought we considered that racist tropes that were used against us for so many decades that we never do it to each other. But you would do that to me. Don't know you. Wish you nothing but the best. But after that, I don't want to know you. God bless you. I hope you ultimately get your own show on CNN or someplace else that wants you. Because clearly you have aspirations to continue doing TV. There's a bigger issue going on here. Folks think they're getting slick. I'm not talking about the people who spoke about me. I'm talking about the political apparatus that exists out there. This ain't about me. We know where I stand. I may not be happy with what I'm seeing sometimes, but I know what the alternative is, and in my eyes, that would be worse in my estimation. Me pointing out that there are black people who have told Trump they feel different is not something that can be ignored no matter how you feel, because that's what they're telling him. And the projections are he's going to be up in the polls. And if he's up in the polls and he gets a certain percentage of the black vote, who knows what could happen? Me pointing that out is not the same as me saying I wish it happens, and I want it to happen, because I don't. And I've been on the record to say that. But I don't have my head in the sand, thinking that sitting idly by and watching momentum swell is the way to go. And I only bring all of that up because I want to get to the real crux of this. The real crux of this, and why folks are in such an uproar, is because the real subject here is the black vote. We ain't going to talk about that today, but it's coming. It's coming. And those who have the decorum, the decency, the professionalism to have substantive conversation, we are going to have that conversation on this show about the black vote. The history of it, where it was, where it's been, where it is, where it's going. This ain't about me. My background is primarily in sports, which I love. I ain't trying to leave sports. Just because I give commentary about a particular issue does not mean that I'm trying to be political. I ain't running for office. I'm not looking for your votes. I'm not looking to build a constituency. I don't want to go on a campaign trail. That ain't me. What I want is for us to be knowledgeable enough about the issues so we know what everybody's offering us, so we can make smart, intelligent, productive decisions that are not dominated by just our emotions. Emotions are part of it, but it shouldn't dominate it. That's it. I got the numbers. I got what the black vote was in 1960, and 1964, and 68, and 72, and 76, and 80, and 84, and 88, and 92, and 96, and 2000, up to now. I got them. I've seen the trend. I know what's going on. Not to the degree of Bakari Sellers would. But you know where you missed the boat, my brother? That's how you feel about me. How you feel about the other voters out there. Because I actually agree with most of your positions. How you feel about the ones who don't? You gonna talk about them like that? What do you think that's going to get you? How productive do you think that's going to be? I wonder what CNN would think about having a contributor that's ready to call somebody what you called me based on your assumptions and your assertions. On your worst day, I would never speak about you that way, black man. On your worst day. D.L. Hughley. It's a frat brother. I've met D.L. Hughley a few times over the years. We all know him from Kings of Comedy. The Hughleys on ABC television. He got a show now with Radio Run on Afternoon Drive. Had a show, late night show, CNN didn't quite pan out. None of that matters. He's a highly successful individual, an intelligent brother, a person that I've had profound respect for over the years. I haven't lost any respect for him. I'm sad that he appears to have lost respect for me. It's his right. But I'm not going to keep going back and forth on what I said. I was answering a question about black Trump supporters, of which I am not, and what they were saying to him. Remember in 1998, when the great novelist Toni Morrison wrote an op-ed in the New Yorker, and she was talking about Clinton and how he was being treated, and how in her own, in some kind of way, it was indicative of how black folks feel in this country. Of course, people took her to task for it. Some people debated, some people supported her, some people didn't. I'm not here to debate all of that because I don't have the direct quote in front of me. I just remember the momentum. And she had to clarify. This is what she meant when she was saying it. The perception of always being guilty, of always having that perp walk. I'm not saying or equating that with Trump. I'm saying black Trump supporters do say that to him. That's it. At the end of the day, it comes down to that vote, right? Who's going to vote for you? What numbers are you going to get? Correct? That's the subject matter that we're going to have to tackle. That's why I appreciated Roland Martin so much. Roland Martin took me to task on his show. Ladies and gentlemen, I texted him and thanked him. I texted him and thanked him because even though I didn't agree with everything, the manner in which he played my quote in its entirety, didn't take it out of context. I appreciate it. He said, Stephen, this is where you missed. Stephen A., this is what you missed here. Here's what you should have did, or here's what you should have said. Fine. Next time I might. Because I respect that brother and how he came at me. He didn't forget I'm the same brother whose show he's been on. That I'm the same brother that supported him all of these years. That I'm the same brother that's going to be supporting him in the future no matter what he does, because I know his heart's in the right place. That's how I feel about you, DL. You on the air with Big Boy and all that stuff, and I love how two brothers are talking and y'all act like y'all ain't talking about a brother. So quick to just throw me under the bus because you thought I said? And then you're going to sit up there and call me a pussy? Because I'm not standing on it? Standing on what? If you own up to how your stuff could have been misconstrued and you're clarifying this is what you meant, that's not standing on it? If I understood how it could be misconstrued and I own it, that's not standing? Last time I checked, that's standing. Refusing to do that is sitting down. Refusing to do that is hiding. Refusing to do that is running away. But I guess you perfect, huh, DL? You don't make mistakes. Every word out of your mouth is just as fluid and as seamless as ever. I don't know Bakari Sellers, so I don't care. I know DL a little bit, and that's a frat brother, and I've always had love and admiration for him. Let me just say a phone call would have been nice. At least an effort to kind of understand what I was trying to say. You don't owe me that, but it would have been nice because it is most certainly something I would have done for you. And that's why I've gotten so quiet. Because you see, when it comes to people who touch me in a personal way, I have to be measured. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to confess to you. I almost cried a week ago. I'm not the most emotional guy in the world in that regard. I cried when I lost my mother. I cried when I lost my brother. That's really about it. But there's a woman by the name of Karen Hunter who has her own show on Sirius XM Urban View Radio, channel 126, every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. I'm going to give y'all some perspective on how close we are. I started my career at the New York Daily News as a freelancer before being hired to cover homicide for the first 4 months before I went to the high school sports department. The very first day I walked in there, somebody came up to me and wrapped their arms around my shoulders and walked me down to the newsroom and said, "I am here for whatever you need," and went about the business of teaching me how to write and how to be a professional reporter from day one. That was Karen Hunter. That was the year 1993. 24 years later, my mom passed away. And as my heart was broken and they lowered my mother's casket into the ground, when I wiped the tears away from my face and I turned around, it was Karen standing behind me. That's how tight we are. I have 4 older sisters. I usually tell people I have 6. One is a woman by the name of Kerry Chandler, who's the former head of HR for Disney, ESPN, the NBA, Under Armour, and all this stuff. She's an HR guru. Very, very tight. The other's Karen Hunter. That's how far back we go. And this woman, who is and will forever be my sister, allowed folks to come on to her show and attack me for hours because of what they construed I said. And I didn't listen to the whole show because it was the one thing that I couldn't take. Not because of what they were saying, it was because it was on her platform. And then she said, not that with my name attached to it or anything like that, but it could have easily been construed as that, well, you know something, when you're making money and you're hanging out with billionaires and you on private jets, you can become a bit detached from your community. My family said, what was the matter? Because I went silent for 3 days. I couldn't believe it. She did text me to come on her show before those words were uttered. I texted back to come on, no response. I called 5 times, no response. That was weeks ago. And I still haven't heard from her. And so We clearly are living in different times right now. How different this is to the 60s, 50s, or whatever, I don't know. I was born in 1967, but I do know that in the times that we're living in, if your political affiliations or your ideologies are different than others because of the times that we're living in, people don't necessarily vibe with that. My point is they don't. Again, I was talking about others. I wasn't talking about me, and I wasn't talking about the vast majority of black people in America who have no plans on voting for Donald Trump. I was talking about the few who intend to and what they're telling Trump based off of the question that Sean Hannity had asked. So it's been a devastating time. But I'm a man, I'll handle it, as always. And part of handling it is addressing people on the level they need to be addressed. And that is when it comes to Steven Jackson. Now, I say Steven Jackson because Matt Barnes, who will be on shortly, addressed me in a fashion as somebody who had a real problem with what I said and what he interpreted me saying. And again, that's on me. Steven Jackson went in. Even more so than what he had to say about me with Trump. And I wouldn't say this if I was on a corner with 10 brothers. Stop your lying. Brothers talk any way we want to brothers, because we brothers. We ain't worried about what we say to each other with differences like that. Opinions are opinions. But what he said about me when it came to Russell Westbrook really raked my nerves. He called me a snitch. Now, Steven Jackson, I could ask you, were you high? Let me take a look before I ask again.
He also said, called the league office the other day, and this one, Gilly posted this, and this one hurt my soul, man. Like, he called the league office to see why Russell Westbrook was suspended. And that just don't sit right with me. And he's a journalist, he needs information. That shit was just weak.
You don't work for the league. What make you think you got the power to call and get somebody suspended? So you opening more doors to thinking now, okay, the times where you done went on TV and spoke bad about me and other players, you called and put your vote in to get people suspended? Is that what you saying? Like that's crazy that you would openly say that. That's the weakest thing he could have ever said on TV, Matt. Back-to-back days. I come from under the old law, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's people that I grew up with that came out of jail that I know that snitching that I ain't fucking with. He a snitch. You snitching, bro. You called the league and told him, nah, fuck that, man. You called the league and tried to get that man suspended. That was the league decision. You don't do no shit like that, bro. You don't do no shit like that. That's the weakest shit ever. I'm sorry, bro. I'm not fucking with him no more. Y'all can be your homeboy. I can't fuck with no shit like that.
Pardon my language. I don't give a fuck that you don't want to fuck with me no more. I apologize to everybody that don't like me using that language. I just want to say that. Where's your facts, Stack? Where's your fact? Where's your facts? First things first, let's look up the definition of snitch. I'll put it up here on the full screen for y'all. In a criminal sense, a snitch will provide information to the police or feds in order to obtain lenient treatment for themselves and provide information over an extended period of time in return for money or for police to overlook their own criminal activities. Quite often, someone will become an informant following their arrest. By virtue of definition alone, you're not making sense. Now, I'm going to assume you were sober, because you seem to have a little pep in your step, a little more energy. But I will remind you, Stack, You've come at me several times in the past and we've let it go because you didn't know what the hell you were talking about. You didn't have the facts. You had your emotion. I have the facts. So let me give them to you. Nobody's hiding. Russell Westbrook should have been suspended. I said that shit that day. I said it the next day. I said it Sunday. I don't give a damn how you or anybody else feels. He should have been suspended based on the way he acted on Game 3 against the Dallas Mavericks. That is not why I called the league. I called the league because we have a show called NBA Countdown. That show was due to come on in an hour. We had learned that Russell Westbrook would not be suspended for the game. We know that had that been Draymond Green or somebody, they would have been suspended. So I called to find out and decipher what was the reason for him not being suspended. If you need to know, I spoke to Joe Dumas to be exact. Ask Joe Dumas, did I ever once say, y'all should suspend him, y'all should suspend him, y'all should suspend him? I never said that. I didn't call for them to suspend Russell Westbrook. I called for clarification to decipher the difference between what would have definitely occurred with a suspension and why it didn't occur in that case, so I could provide an explanation over the airwaves of NBA Countdown, which is my job. You know anything about that? You know what the job entails, Stack? You have any clue? Have you been a reporter for 30 years? Do you understand the obligation to ESPN for a flagship show that is the pregame show for the NBA? You said I don't work for the NBA. I work for ESPN, which gives over $1 billion to the NBA. You don't think they wanted the information? What was the rationale? What did I say when I went on TV? I said, quote, they said the officials wrote their written report and stated we had everything under control. Russell Westbrook caused no problems. There was no further incident, and that's why we let it go. Plus, it was the playoffs. Had it been the regular season, Steven, we would have suspended him. But because it wasn't the regular season, it was the postseason, and there's a lot more at stake, we're going to be highly reluctant to do that. That is the report I gave over the air. Would you have preferred that it came from Adrian Wojnarowski? Would that make you feel more comfortable? Would that have sufficed? I did my job. That's what comes with the NBA. You remember when you ran into the stands and you were fighting, Stack? When Ron Artest got all of that? Remember all of that? Remember when I went on the air and spoke? And my ass got raked through the coals for trying to come to your defense? Remember that? I called the league office. How come it didn't bother you when I called the league office back then? That was 2004, 2005. With one incident after another that you or any other player have found themselves in, when the heavy hand of the league office, in all likelihood, is coming down upon you, we call the league office for an explanation to provide it because the league office wants their explanation over the airwaves from the network they have a rights deal with. It's called business. Now, I know you don't get involved in that too much because you leave that up to Matt Barnes a lot more. But it's business. And I have an obligation to conduct business on behalf of ESPN. Everybody can't be you, Stack. Everybody can't have a podcast and they don't work for nobody else. Everybody can't be committed to always representing the streets and representing the players and think you doing something positive for them by giving them wrong or ill-advised advice. Everybody can't get away with that, Stack. Sometimes you got to tell people what they don't want to hear. Sometimes you got to give it to them straight and real from the other perspective that they inevitably gonna have to deal with. Last time I checked, you ain't writing your own checks. You get it from somebody. Who paying you? You ain't got to listen to them? You ain't got to hear what they have to say? You ain't got to oblige to some degree? You ain't got to work a little extra. You ain't got to take on different responsibilities from time to time that you may not necessarily like, but it comes along with the territory because you signed a contract. You don't know anything about that, Stack? I'm making that up. Come on, bro. You ain't even got to be like that. We were at All-Star Weekend. We were hugging each other so much in the damn restaurant, in the lobby level. Everybody like, y'all must have been boys for years, which we've been. Every time, anytime somebody try to come at you the wrong way, I always remind them you're a real one. You as authentic as they come, you good people. If I disagree with you, I disagree with you. I never disrespect you. And I never, ever, ever in a million years would utter words out of my mouth that would try to turn the brothers against you. You know what using that word means. You know that's out of pocket. Now I'm going to hold back for now. But make no mistake about it, brother. It ain't fear. Ain't nobody scared. I love you. I've known you for years. You wrong, bro. I didn't deserve that. We know a lot of the same people. You know I know where you from. I know what Port Arthur's all about. I know what you about. You continue to find reasons to get upset. You don't know what went down with me and Kyrie, and you took a position before knowing all the facts. You were upset at me when I was talking to you during the whole, during the riots in the streets. And you were appearing on ESPN or CNN and all of these other networks. And I was talking to you about cats sitting there and wanting you on television and asking you where the hell were they going to be when all of this faded into the twilight. When you wanted to not play in the bubble. When you wanted to not participate. When you didn't want to have an NBA season. And I talked about that force majeure clause that would render collective bargaining agreement null and void. Which means brothers wouldn't be getting paid. We've had our differences of opinions. And there's a lot that I know that you didn't know. I never disrespected you. I never betrayed you. And I certainly never, ever, ever in my wildest dreams thought about opening my mouth and speaking in a way that would make brothers raise an eyebrow towards you as it appears to your authenticity. Don't do it to me. You feel the way you feel, I feel the way that I feel. I respect where you coming from, but you ain't right. You wrong, and you don't have all the facts. And then to not return my call, to not return my text, to not take the offer that your man Matt Barnes took to come on the show and say it to my face and have a man-to-man conversation. Yo, bro, you better than that. Unless speaking to me directly and having to have your facts right in front of my face was a challenge you wasn't willing to accept. As I've said to you and anybody who wants to talk about me, we know that I don't say 75% of the things I know. And we know I don't betray. And we know I damn sure ain't no snitch. That never gets associated with me, bruh. And it never will. We'll see each other eventually. Mad love and respect to you. No matter how you feel about me. Still got love and respect for you. You just don't know what the hell you're talking about on this issue. You do not have your facts. You are wrong. And if you don't believe me, call the league office. Call ESPN. You got enough contacts. Find out how wrong you are. I don't expect an apology from you. But I'll be damned if you didn't owe me one. And I'm going to leave it at that. until we speak. With all that said, I would not pass up the opportunity to invite all the Smoke Boys right here onto this show to address me directly. At least one of them took me up on that offer. My guest is an NBA champion with the Golden State Warriors and now hosts the popular All the Smoke podcast, along with co-host and fellow NBA champion Steven Jackson, a.k.a. Stacks. He also has a new reality show called The Barnes Bunch. Please welcome my man, the one and only Matt Barnes. Matt, what's going on, man? How are you? How's everything?
I'm well, man. Thank you for having me.
First of all, let me get this out the way first. You know, I got mad love and respect for you. I took no offense to anything that you said. You my man, you know that. We could have differences or whatever. There's plenty of times that we've had differences in the past, and you have let me know what your opinion has been. I brought you on television to express your difference of opinion with me, and you educated me. I got a whole different attitude about weed these days, Matt Barnes. I got a whole different attitude about weed because of you. But listen, I listen to y'all get at me, and I must tell you straight up and down, while I took no offense to what you said, I took big time offense to what Stacks said. And when I see Stacks face to face, I'm going to tell him. We talk over the phone, I'm going to tell him. It don't matter to me, you know that. But while I got you on this show, explain to my audience your issue with what I had to say, and then I'll respond.
And again, Stephen A., I love that we're able to do this because I think you brought up early on that, you know, we can disagree without disrespecting, and we've done that a few times. And I think that only educates both of us and educates our audience and makes this alliance stronger. With that said, the Trump situation, I saw the Trump situation, obviously apologized and have since kind of clarified what you meant behind it. But at the same time, you know, I'm someone, first of all, we're sports focused, and that's where I started. And then, you know, I crossed over into politics, 4 or 5 years ago. And that's a slippery, dangerous slope. And I see that you're transitioning because I do think you're more than just obviously a sports analysis. So I love the crossover, but at the same time, I think, and you understand how much power comes with our voices and how we live in a day and age where everyone will stick to a single word or a single sentence and either twist, flip, or whatever. For this particular Trump situation, you know, saying that, you know, when he said that, you know, that he can relate to the Black community, with the harassments and this and that, and you stamping that almost gives him a victim card. Trump has been someone who has abused his power pre-office, during office, and post-office. His decisions that he has made have put him in certain situations. And I just think it's such a slap in the face to the Black and brown community when we give him a pass on everything, really. You know what I mean? Like, no one's perfect, and we're not here to debate who you should vote for, because none of that, because all these guys are a little crazy. But I just think that first and foremost really kind of made a lot of people say, like, hold on, just because this dude is being harassed and arrested and has some legal issues that we should relate, or because he's making some cool sneakers, we should relate. And I just think that's such an underhanded slap to the minority community. So if you want to address that, and then I guess we can go to the Russell Westbrook stuff.
Well, let me address that first of all. First of all, based on the way you took it, I absolutely understand why you or any Black person would be offended. I know I damn sure would have been offended if that was the way I took it. What happened was I was on the air with Chris Cuomo a half hour earlier on News Nation. 45 minutes later, I was on the air with Sean Hannity on Fox News. And we know that Fox News is right-leaning and News Nation is more so left-leaning, not as much as MSNBC, but nevertheless, that is the case. What Sean asked me was about Black Trump supporters, not about the Black community. He said there are Black Trump supporters out there. Biden is losing support amongst some Blacks. He's losing support amongst some Latinos. He's losing support even amongst women in the suburbs, et cetera, et cetera. Why do you think that is? And it was piggybacking off of Trump saying recently the blacks who do support me, because we know 90% of us do not support him. And I'm one of those people who's been on the air religiously reminding everybody of 4 indictments, 91 counts, 2 impeachments, Lord knows what else, and ain't no way in hell I think we should vote for him, because I think that he's going to cause civil war in this country. I've said that repeatedly over and over and over again. So when Sean Hannity asked me that question, what I was speaking to was the few blacks who do support him. This is what they're saying to him. He is right about what they're saying to him. But this is how everybody took it. So because they took it that way, I came out and said, whoa, my apologies. I ain't mean it like that, y'all. This is what I was trying to say. But I was like, with the understanding, I've been on the record countless times on every damn platform you can imagine saying, I don't think this man is somebody that can be supported because this brother's going to cause civil war in our country.
But even with that said, even with that said,
right.
As much as you have stood on what you said in the past, that one single sentence or one single edit clip moment with the guy from Fox News, everyone will say, forget everything he said now. Look where he's at now. You know what I mean? Forget what he said in the past. Look where he's at now. So again, I applaud you from a standpoint of obviously meaning something a certain way. It was taken another way, because it's hard to apologize in this space. You know, whether we're talking politics, whether we're talking sports, it's kind of a pride thing. And there's not very many who do. You know what I mean? Obviously, you have takes that move weight and move the needle and push the bar. You know what I mean? So when you say, again, when you speak in particular, because I look at you as kind of, you're the head of this game right now that we're all sports media is in. And, you know, the power of your words to sway, to take money away from certain situations, like your words are heavy. You know what I mean? I remember back in the day when Oprah said something when I was younger about, you know, not eating meat and how the meat companies, you know what I mean? So there's certain people in this culture and in this world, when they say something, it moves. So for you to, again, mean it one way, stand on stuff in the past, and then this be taken a certain way, and to be able to, you know, correct your wrong and apologize, I definitely commend you for that. But again, not knowing the whole context, not knowing the earlier 30 minutes with Como, and then 45 minutes later with who you were talking to, when we see edits, because we watch stuff in edits now, unfortunately, we don't take the time to watch whole things. So people always, there are things that are taken out of context, and for it to be taken out of context and you stand and apologize, I definitely commend that.
Well, listen, man, like I told you before, this ain't the first time you've called me on the carpet for something that I've said. When I've disagreed with something that you said, I've called you on it. But I also picked up the phone and called you. I let you know I was going to say something. We holler at one another. And by the way, one of the boys was Stacks that used to do that. Yet he on the air with you the other day. I can't even tell you how pissed I am with his ass. I ain't going to lie to you. I mean, I can't wait to see him, because it's like, wait a minute. We've been cool for years. Oh, yo, Stephen A. bumped that. Hell with Stephen A. saying some bullshit like that. What? You know, I ain't the smartest dude in the world, but I'm the king of common sense. Well, wait a minute. If you got something to say, you know my number. You got something to say, you want to make sure. Because remember, you didn't go where he went. You disagreed with me. He sat up there and said, I'm not messing with Stephen A. no more. Like I betrayed my race. I betrayed people. And I'm like, none of us are perfect. You ain't perfect, Matt. I ain't perfect. I think it's safe to say Stacks he ain't perfect either. What nerve? What nerve? And I'm like, I thought that he went entirely too far, and I thought, and I admire you and respect you for coming on this show, because you are my witness. Did I not reach out to both of y'all and invite both of y'all on this show? And Stacks was the one that didn't answer. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I mean, I know, and this is not to make excuses, and I'm looking forward to you guys actually having that conversation, because you guys have had differences in the past and not agreed, and have been able to talk through them. I know he's out in Virginia right now coaching the Allen Iverson game and kind of doing the whole camp. But again, I definitely think that's something you guys need to have a conversation about. You know what I mean? We are a team from all the smoke, but we're also individuals and grown men. And as I said in that part, you know, I got a lot of love for Stephen A. I don't agree with them. Jack had a different approach, and that's Jack's approach. And I think that's what makes us such a good duo, is because we can have different takes and go against each other, or have similar takes but just take different routes to get there. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to speak on how he feels or what he thinks or what you guys should conversate about, but I definitely think that, you know, a conversation needs to be had.
I had people looking at me and going like this, man, what the hell you gonna talk to them for? What you reach out to them for, man? You know what? You got your platform. They got this. That's just giving them some shine. Here's what they don't realize. I want you to have shine. I think Matt Barnes is great, and I want you to be successful. Stacks is my man, been my man for years. I want him to be. I want y'all to win. I don't give a damn how I'm doing. Guess what? Better or worse, I'm a root for y'all, and I've been that guy. So to me, It ain't about his opinion. It ain't about his opinion about what he thought I said or whatever, Matt. It was the writing me off. And I'm like this, if you trying to write me off, then you were never down with me to begin with. Good riddance. Bump it. I don't give a shit. And that brings me to the whole Russell Westbrook situation. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. Ain't no way I'm wrong about this, but I'm going to give you an opportunity first, Matt Barnes, because you got at me. Stacks got at me. Stacks called me a snitch. A snitch. I'm gonna show him the definition of Webster's dictionary, what the hell a snitch is. The brother from Port Arthur, Texas. You know what the hell a snitch is. That's the weakest BS I've ever heard come out of his mouth, but that's neither here nor there. What did I do wrong with Russell Westbrook in y'all estimation? You give me your thoughts, I'm gonna give you the facts.
So that's what I need. I need the facts. From my understanding, from what I saw, the clip I saw in the conversation I saw, again, giving him props, giving him respect, recognizing his greatness. I just think on the flip side, and maybe it was the energy in which the way you presented it, like, God damn it,
okay,
he needs to be, he wants to be, I want him to be. And that was kind of the energy you were getting off. But when I look at it from a former player, and people don't know, like, I remember early on, Stephen A., I'm out in Philly in 03. When you're kind of getting your feet wet and AI is your guy. So I've seen the progression, the growth, all this and to where you are now. But like I said, I just think you're one of the people who has come up and been so close to us as players, us as athletes, and us as men off the court. In the moment it went and you said it, but I'm thinking like, damn, like Stephen A. is to me, and even if other, because when I read through the comments, I know everyone does it. It's journalistic. You just wanted to know the outcome. Maybe it was the energy, maybe it was the wording, but to me, I'm just like, damn, I felt like that was out of pocket, because if anyone that hasn't played should know how we feel, it's you. And the fact that you went over there almost trying to stamp, like, goddamn it. And I'm not even validating what Russ did. To me, Russ says, I applaud Russ from a standpoint of Stephen A. He's going to go down as a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's done some things that only he's done in the league, and he's had to reinvent himself. And not everyone from his stature and his level have been able to successfully kind of reinvent themselves and buy into a situation. And I think if one athlete kind of in the last 10 years has taken a lot of hell, obviously it's Braun, but I think Russell Westbrook and the negativity and the negative energy has come right behind him. So again, not defending what he was doing. I think he's bought into his role. Maybe he's a little too physical. Maybe it's this, but that's what he is for this Clipper team now. He's a dog. He's a thug. He has to kind of play that. Let me take that word thug away, because people take that wrong. He's kind of the dirty work guy. He's similar to what I had to do in my career and what I did in my career. Mm-hmm. So I felt like, with all that being said, obviously what he did in the game, again, I'm not condoning what he did in the game, but I think maybe it was the energy in which you went to the league office, like, why is this dude not suspended? What was your, like, I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and particularly athletes that mess with you, because like I said, if there's anyone who hasn't played that should kind of have an understanding of how we feel in our vibe from where you came from, and I see it from the beginning when in Philly, like I said, you should know. Mm-hmm. So that's where I was, that was my point of view on that.
Before I give you the facts about what happened, me and you go back more than 20 years.
Yep.
Has any athlete, you or anybody else, ever, one time, been in a position to call me a snitch about anything? Ever?
I personally have not. I can't vouch. I can't stamp it.
Never happened.
That's not my opinion.
Come on now. We know the code. We know where it's from. You know, if you doing something on public consumption on a basketball court, there ain't no damn snitch. Stuff that go on off the court. How many times in our lifetime you've seen me run across a player, including yourself and others? I don't know what you're talking about. I ain't seen nothing. Ain't none of my damn business. I got nothing to say. You understand? It's understood. It's understood. So Stacks using that word, we going to have a discussion about, I don't give a shit if it's in Atlanta. I don't care if LA. Wherever we meet up, we going to have that discussion. He out of pocket with that. He crossed the line. Having said that, let me give you the facts. Let me be very, very clear. I'm unapologetic. I thought Russell Westbrook should have been suspended. Ain't nobody apologizing. I'm not backing up from that one thing. I thought he should have been suspended. It was for Kawhi to be hurt. Let's crystallize this for you, and I'm giving you all the facts. So Russell Westbrook goes out there. He damn near clothesline one dude, even though he was going for the ball. But you know how the league is today, and they could have clotheslined it. And then he's sitting up there gauging the histrionics, acting like he ain't even touched the dude. You know what I'm saying? When you clearly knocked him aside his head, albeit unintentionally, right? Then after he does that, he's knocking Luka Doncic to the floor, like you said. We know this is a Stars League. You know how protective the NBA is for the Stars today compared to yesteryear, right? Then at one point, you swing his arm around. You could have dislocated his shoulder. Remember, I'm a Knicks fan. Why Julius Randle out? Julius Randle out with a separated shoulder, out for this damn season, okay? So I took that in consideration. Then after that, Luka Doncic comes over to you, like, please, you shove him. PJ Washington shoves you in the back. You turn around, you shove off a referee. You push PJ, right? You get ejected from the game. I said, what the hell is he doing? In today's NBA game, if that's Draymond Green, who, by the way, texted me because he felt it was wrong for me to call the league office because he didn't understand the context that I was coming from. So he agreed with you, right? He was like, I said, yo, had that been you out. You out. So what happened is when he gets ejected from the game, it's a Friday. We don't have NBA Countdown that Saturday. NBA Countdown on ABC, previewing the Mavs Clippers game, we got coming on in an hour. They said Russell Westbrook is not going to be suspended. The ESPN is like, okay, well, what's the reason for that? I said, let me make a call. I called Joe Dumars in the league office. Why was he not suspended? They gave me the reason why. I went on the air and said this was their explanation. He lucky it wasn't me because I would have suspended him, but this is the explanation they gave. Makes perfect sense. It's the playoffs. It ain't the regular season. You don't want the officials determining the outcome, but damn it, Russell, with Kawhi Leonard out, how could you even put yourself in that position? And that was the end of it. What I'm saying, Matt, is you are a player. Stacks is a player. I get that. I'm a reporter. Not just a personality. I've been covering the NBA for 30 years. We got NBA Countdown coming on. They wanted to know why he wasn't suspended because had it been Draymond or somebody, they might have been suspended. Question asked, question answered, you move on. I got Gilly from Wallow and Gilly going the hell off, losing his damn mind. And I'm like, what? Yo, y'all do a podcast. I literally covered. They said, you don't work for the NBA. No, damn it. I work for the network they got a multi-billion-dollar contract with. Who's covering the damn game? That's my job. Why wasn't he suspended? I didn't call up and say suspend him. I didn't call up and say, I said what I said on TV. I didn't call up and say suspend him. I didn't call up and say you should change your mind.
And
I
I
didn't
get
do
it.
that.
And I'm glad we're getting to hear the full context because to me, it sounds like you were stuck in the middle of ESPN wanting some information and you having a direct line to that information. So the way I took it, and I can't speak for nobody else, the way I took it was you went out of your way to call, because that's the kind of energy you was given. I'm not even going to lie to you. You went out of your way to call the NBA, like, why is he not suspended? That's how I took it. So now hearing how the full context of the situation happened, ESPN had a question. You guys are coming on air. You have a direct line to the source. You're calling and getting information to kind of report back to the people. But again, we didn't get that initial explanation.
Right.
And not to even say that you have to give it, because you don't. But understand if it's something that's going to be controversial,
I'm always giving
that line. Yeah, we're going to press that line just like I would expect you to press the line on something else that was some bullshit. So that was kind of, we saw a snippet of the entire situation. The world saw that. So I'm thinking like, damn, Stephen A is going out of his way to call the NBA office to see why Russell Westbrook's not suspended. That shit is crazy to me.
That is crazy.
I think that's how a lot of people took it.
That is crazy if I did it that way. But it's not crazy for me to go on the air and go like this. Your ass should be suspended. I mean, listen, you watch teams, I watch teams, and exactly.
I don't think anyone has a problem with you thinking he should get suspended or not play, blah, blah, blah. I think the issue was taken when you took that next step, insinuating on the why. But again, now I think the world's going to hear the situation you were in. The network asked why. You had a direct line to the person that can give you the why, and you went and got that. So to me, that's a whole nother context. Again, I initially explained, I'm thinking you're just on an off day or chilling and do whatever. Like, yo, why the fuck was he not suspended? I'm just like, damn, that was out of pocket. But again, getting the full context now, it makes sense. You thinking he should be suspended and saying that, that's fine, because you're not alone thinking that. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, we're all thinking you're just on your spare time going asking why this dude is not suspended. And to me, I think that rubbed a lot of former players and some of the public the wrong way.
Well, listen, that's fair. And what I appreciate about you is that you're taking that kind of context and you saying that's fucked up. That requires an explanation, right? I give you the explanation. That's entirely different than Stack. Yo, snitch. Yo, if we were on the corner, he wouldn't have even said something like that. Hell, you talking about? Brothers on the corner talk like that all the time to one another. What if 10 of us were together? How many of us would agree, Matt? How many of us would agree on anything? It could be Trump. It could be Westbrook. It could be anything. How many of us would agree on a particular topic? We certainly would agree about not snitching. Ain't no question about that. But in terms of a difference of opinion, oh, no. We all express ourselves. He trying to act like somebody would be scared to express himself. I can assure you that is a lie. But here's where I go with this. We live in times right now, because All the Smoke is a big-time podcast. You and Stack with his crazy ass have done a great job. You deserve a lot of credit. As pissed off as I am with him right now, I'm still very proud of him and the job that he's done with you. I know what he means to you. I know what he means to the show. And damn it, if we never spoke again, I'm still going to have love for him. Let me be very clear about that. But the flip side is that you get to a point where, when does your reputation and your history matter? Like, I know Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes, I tell everybody this. It's a brilliant brother. Brother smart as hell. Don't think you're going to be some ignorant ass person and come in front of Matt Barnes' face and think you're just going to slide something over his head. You're going to get your feelings hurt, because the brother know what he's talking about. He's a smart brother. And everybody know you ain't no damn punk. When does your reputation, when does your history come into effect? Because when I think about the podcast world that we're living in right now, you could read a headline and cats are engaging in condemnation. Not about the subject matter, but about the person. What has happened, and how do you feel about what has happened in terms as it pertains to the ease with which folks engage in character assassination?
Stephen A., I think I'm gonna keep it real with you. I think you have a part to play in that. I think other people have a part to play in that from a standpoint of, to me, we used to have a really difficult job, and particularly players critiquing people we used to be brothers with, former teammates, former colleagues. It used to be more about critiquing. Now, I think there's been a line drawn in the sand, and the flip side of it is now, if you say something that's going to garnish clicks, whether you wholeheartedly believe it, whether it's disrespectful, or you know it's going to make good TV, that shit is rewarded now. That shit is rewarded. The loudest, the most disrespectful, sometimes the most ignorant shit is rewarded now. Instead of using our understanding of the game or understanding of the situation to critique without disrespecting. So I think media as a whole, and there's athletes in that too, I feel, that have gone from critiquing, breaking down the game, or doing some stuff like that to character attack. Again, Russell Westbrook is a perfect example of the shit he's been going through the last handful of years. It's far past his game. It's not about his game. They've critiqued his family. They've critiqued the man he is. They've critiqued a lot of other shit outside of what he's paid to do. So I think that media has a big part to play in it. And now it's almost open season, because social media and a lot of idiots have voices that shouldn't have voices. And a lot of opinions are thrown and said, and a lot of it is for shock value. Sometimes, sometimes these people feel it, but I just miss the days, and I wish it would steer back in the direction of, damn, we got a tough job and we do have to critique, but we don't have to disrespect this man, or we don't have to disrespect this woman, or we don't have to disrespect this anchor like this. But I think the line has been drawn and it's been crossed, and I don't know if we'll ever get back to getting just critiquing analysts, I think it's always going to be taken. And I'm not saying, I'm definitely not saying like you always do this, but I think I said you have done it before, where we've taken shots at individuals as a man or individuals as a woman instead of critiquing their craft or their art.
I respectfully disagree. And let me tell you why I respectfully disagree. Because I've had a cardinal rule my entire career, which has enabled me to cultivate the relationships that I've cultivated. And that is, your personal life is your business and your personal stories are for you to tell. Your professional life, which is what you perform in front of the masses, that's subject to scrutiny. Me telling you played like garbage is not saying you're not a good man. It's saying that night you played like garbage. You played like garbage. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you had cats calling Russell Westbrook, yo, Matt, that wasn't me. I never did that. I know what Russell Westbrook's name mean to him. I heard him talk about his daughter and his children in the stands with his wife. I never said that. What I said was, shooting ain't your strength, bro. Go to the hole. You know what I'm saying? Don't yank no damn 3-pointers. That ain't your game. Don't be in an NBA Finals where you dropping over 40, but you are literally attacking with such vigor as a shooter that the other guys are sitting around spectating, and then when it's time for them to shoot, they ice cold because they ain't touched the damn ball, and now you can't beat Miami. It's stuff like that.
I'm not mad at none of that.
But guys,
that's
what I'm saying, they take it though. But they take it personal, Matt. They take it personal. And that's my point.
That's on the players, because we are in an age with access and money and everything where if you're critiquing the game and they played like shit or they played great, that's the game. But like you said, when you said we're talking about Russell Westbrook and you just addressed, people started calling him Westbrook and messing with his daughters and not saying that was you. But the media, Skip Bayless had a big hand to play in that. And that's why Skip, I think, has started to backpedal because people are going to eventually Skip was at a point where people was about to backhand him if they saw him in public. And I don't think he knows or realizes, but I think he's kind of backpedaled. So again, it is people here and there that have very powerful voices and voices that move the needle that I feel have crossed that line into disrespecting the man or the woman that instead of critiquing the athlete.
That's right. And that's what I'm saying. I agree with you on that part. I'm just simply saying that ain't never been me. Even when you got somebody like Kwame Brown losing his damn mind, I'm like, yo, I'll talk about your game. Your game. I ain't say nothing about you personally, okay? And I stand on that. But in the end, it's a lot of stuff that goes on in regards. That's a different subject for another day. But you have a situation where you got a partner. And you hosting the show, as brilliant as you are, that damn stack is provocative as hell too. And what I would challenge is, Stack is the opposite. And not just of you, but of me and a lot of other people in this regard. It's always the player. It's always the player on the positive side. Because his attitude is, yo, I want to make sure that I'm protective of the players. I respect that as a former player. But not at the expense of the truth. Yo, bro, if you watching the games like we watching the games, you got to call it when you see it. There's winners and there's losers. There's cats that get it done and cats that don't get it done. There's cats that struggle and then there are cats who choke. Yo, Matt, that's sports. That's sports. And I think that sometimes he's so interested in being seen as having that level of street cred and being a brother that's willing to come to their defense no matter what. The objectivity goes out the window, and then you want to villainize somebody else who is objective when it's our damn job to be objective. What do you say to that?
First and foremost, Jack is my brother. I'm a ride with him till the wheels fall off, but I don't always agree with him. And I think that what makes us and we'll literally go to war with each other for each other. You know what I mean? So let me say that, and I love him. But we have a different opinion and a different approach, and sometimes we can have the same message but different vehicles to get there. Again, I don't want to speak on what he thinks or the why or the reasoning. That's something you guys need to have a conversation with. I feel like again,
we will.
I'm always gonna think players first, but I'm also an understanding and real person. As players, we fuck up too. I mean, I was someone who fucked up a lot on and off the court. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna be, and I don't mind people calling, because I've been called on. I've been called on it by analyst. I've been called on it by former players, and it kind of is what it is. So I have to kind of internalize, okay, did I really mess up over there? Cool. I'm going to have to accept. I'm going to take that as man. Did they put a story out there that's not true? No, I'm not going to ride with that then. So kind of, and again, so I translate that into players. If we're critiquing the game, yeah, we got to critique the game, and sometimes it's tough. And people have a problem with me. So you're a role player, and you're critiquing so and he could do this better.
Please, you're a champion.
Come on, exactly. You've never even laced the shoes up, so relax. So again, that's when I said earlier on this conversation, being a former player, having to critique is hard. And I feel there are some athletes out here who have been former players that have kind of crossed that line too. And I don't feel like these guys can call the homies they used to play with anymore and be like, hey, what's up? Or what's kind of get the scoop. And, because we all have our inside sources. And to me, I've always valued that more than giving a network kind of what they want.
Right.
And I feel like sometimes the networks want you to go that extra mile for views and clicks. And I've never looked at it that way. When I was fortunate enough to work for ESPN, the 4+ or 3.5, 4 years I worked for them, I was always very content in my space because I knew that I can give you an in-depth analysis from a player's point of view and throw some analytics in there. But I was never willing to really go out there and disrespect these guys because I know how hard it is to be in their position. Like I was a role player for 15 years. I couldn't imagine what it's like, but I know much more than a regular pedestrian what it's like to be one of these stars. So I've always understood, and not just in basketball, across the board. I think, again, we're in an era now where loud disrespect is accepted instead of critiquing athletes, which it used to be. So I don't know if it'll ever go back. I don't know if I really answered your question, but I know I touched around it.
You did. You did. But here's the part that I think you're missing respectfully. When you're talking about players, a lot of times you're talking about players against players. So you're taking a side. Like, you have people out there that think you're just talking about a player and he's in an isolated bubble. You ain't talking about nobody else. Like for example, when I sit up there and I say Kevin Durant sent KD and Bill and Booker home, was talking shit to them prior to, then did it. You see what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, some people are like, damn, he throwing shade on Kevin Durant. I'm big up in Anthony Edwards. Did you see this, brother?
Well, we live in a day now. It's and not to cut you off, Stephen A., because it's like when you think about the Jordan or the Kobe or the LeBron comparisons, if you love one, you have to hate the other. And that's where social media is giving everyone a voice and having to feel like it's either one or the other. What the Anthony Edwards thing, Anthony Edwards talking to shit and he backed it up. And he sent KD, Booker, and Beal home. That's not disrespecting them. And if they take it that way, that's more on them. That's, like you said, that's giving love to this young bull who's ready to be the face of the NBA once these OG Hall of Famers retire. So, again, I think everything has to be in context and individually how you want to perceive it. You know what I mean? Some guys are a little sensitive than others. Some guys don't give a shit. Some guys care, so it's just to each his own, and every individual reacts a different way. So, again, I think we're all in a tough spot because we are paid good money to give our opinion on shit, and people are always going to agree, and that's okay. You don't have to always agree with me, but I feel like we can agree without having to disrespect. Or excuse me, we can disagree. We can disagree without having to disrespect.
Right. And remember, you and I have had conversations in the past where I'm pulling you and I are rapping to the side, off air, off mic, off camera, and there's a role that you get to play that I can't. Because as a member of this fourth estate, as a media member, I can be as true and authentic as I can possibly be. But in the same breath, there's just certain places that I can't go to because I wasn't a former player. And I know that would be crossing the line. And so it was like, boom, all right, I can say this, but you got to go there because I can't. But you can't go here because this is a place that I can go because I'm detached from that culture, from that locker room, from that fraternity per se, in a way that you're not. So I can go to a place that you can't go either, because if I said it, well, that's just the media. If you said it, it's betrayal of another brother. So all of those things we got to take into consideration as well. I ask you this question, which is harder for you right now? When you think about the career that you have now and the subject matters that you touch on, you are also somebody that I happen to know, you've been on this show, your aspirations to be a politician, being a mayor of Sacramento one day, being a governor, hell, with you being a senator, possibly a presidential candidate. I don't rule anything out with you. as you look, as you discuss this subject with me and what I said about Trump and the stuff with Westbrook, you juxtapose the sports to the political atmosphere. Which do you prefer?
I prefer life, and I pride myself on educating myself as much as I can before I speak, because I feel like all aspects we touch. I mean, I was a former athlete. Great. That was a small part of my life. So obviously I love sports. I'm a father, so I'm indulged in that. I've been through a public divorce, so I've been indulged in that. Politics interests me. At first, it wasn't so much the policy. It was the former mayor of Sacramento, Kevin Johnson, being a former NBA player and seeing him clean up Oak Park, the same streets my auntie had her throat slit and died in the gutter. So I saw that kind of encouraged me to like, man, I don't really know what all this policy stuff is, but I see what he's doing in his hometown, and that's beautiful. So that was kind of where it kind of lit the fire in my late 20s, early 30s. So I like to be versed and understand. I mean, this politic world, and and a lot of people know, it's messy on both sides.
Vicious.
And at the end of the day, this whole entire world, big United States we only have these two guys to pick from. And it's crazy now, because before you just used to disagree on policy. Now there's almost a line in the sand. Like if you like Trump, he's a dog whistleblower to hate groups and wants to pardon all the June 6th people and calls, minorities thugs so it's just like, and then on the flip side, you got Biden out there falling asleep on the world. You know what I mean? So it's just like, what do we really have to? And if you're on one side or the other, it's almost like there's real animosity and hate towards the other side. So politics has always been a very slippery slope. But I think to answer your question, I just try to be as versed as I can in life, because I feel like I can speak intelligently on a lot of different levels, but that doesn't come with backlash, criticism, or scrutiny. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do, some people are going to like it. So like a referee, half the people are going to like it, half the people are going to hate it. So it is just what it is. So I just try to prepare myself as well as I could every time I speak on different issues outside of the bubble that people know me in, and try to get my point across.
I want to get your opinion about what I'm going to say about myself, so you understand where I'm coming from, and you'll know for future references with your shows whenever my name comes up, because chances are it'll come up again. I struggle politically. I'm going to be real straight up and down with you. I voted for one Republican in my life. That's Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey years ago, because I thought that the predecessor was a crook, okay? That's it. I've been a consistent voter for the Democratic Party because the number one thing that they've done for black people, in my estimation, was give us access to capital. That's something we don't talk about enough. When we think about things from an historical perspective, spanning the last 50 plus years and what have you, from, civil rights legislation being put into law to other things that have transpired, they've given us access to capital. And there's an appreciation for that, big time, because when you talk about, generational wealth, when you talk about economic empowerment, I think we should look at the Democratic Party as a black community and be thankful for the access to capital. But it's a deeper subject when we think about the times that have changed, some of the things that have been said, used, utilized, et cetera, et cetera. And the biggest thing that I have a problem with, Matt, is I can't stand being transparent in a political sense. I can't stand everybody knowing exactly what I think, how I feel, and how I'm going to vote, because I think that gives one party a license to take you for granted because they know they got your vote, and the other party a license to ignore you and say the hell with you because we don't have your support. And I believe that's what has led to the disenfranchisement of the black community in this country. That's why a lot of times I come across as keeping an open mind, because I want to hear what other people have to say. I want them to know folks are listening, and maybe they'll try to flatter our community to do more for us than they've been doing, whatever side that is. In this day and age, because of Trump and his divisive self, it's almost like we can't take that position, because I'm afraid he's going to cause civil war in this country. Other people feel what they're going to feel about him. And as a result, you got to vote against him or else. You got to vote for him or else. And that divide, to me, is what has us as a community in a quandary because we're no longer the dominant minority. Those are the Hispanics, the Latinos. We only make up about 13.6% of the population. That's where I'm coming from when I'm thinking in terms of just listening to what other people have to say. If I go buy a house, I go buy a car, I want to inspect it, I want to look at it, I want to decide, as opposed to being transparent with what I'm going to do. And I don't think the Times allows us for that level of transparency thinking. Your thoughts?
No, I would agree. It's again, there's been a line drawn in the sand, and it's you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you're a Biden person, you're attacked for his mishaps. If you're a Trump person, you are and you're a minority. Like, how can you support someone who is again a dog whistleblower to hate? The Proud Boys. He told them what stand down and stand by. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, there's just little things he's done. Big things he's done to blatantly to disrespect and divide this country. I feel like before Trump was on the ballot, although there was racism, I think it went to a new level of racism when he allowed the people who love him the most to kind of really start having a voice. So I think to answer your question, Stephen A., it's very tough. When I got into this, I feel like in the Black and brown community, we were never meant to have a voice or a foot or a saying in this space. We didn't grow up talking about it at the dinner table. We didn't very few of us very early on, right when we turned 18, were voting, because that's not something we're trying to survive. We're not even thinking outside of our houses and then outside of our communities. But the way I kind of started approaching politics early on was, seeing immediate turnaround, and that's in your local cities and your local states. I think bite-sized pieces are where it's at, because you'll see some turnaround, immediate turnaround, and that'll probably, light the ball, light the fuse to want to explore on a higher level. So, I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in this, this presidential race. But I just think when I speak on politics, I feel like there's so much you can do on your local city level and state level to see immediate turnaround and kind of just understand what your community is about, what your community needs. And that's where I encourage people to go out and spend most of their focus. The presidential situation, what Trump has caused over these last 8+ years is a complete divide, and it's unfortunate. And I don't see it. Again, I feel like hate is as big as it's ever been, although it's not like it used to be back in the day. It's hiding out there. It's in the police officers. It's in the government. It's in the courts. It's in the doctors. It's everywhere. It's in the day-to-day people. We probably work with some people who hate us because of the color of our skin. So I just think we're in a bad time, and I don't see it turning around as long as Trump's name has continued to be echoed and muttered in whatever fashion.
I feel you on that. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about my positions before I let you go, my brother? Because I know eventually I'm gonna get a call from you. I don't know if I'm gonna answer Stat call. I don't know, since he didn't answer mine, but I'm gonna answer yours. I'm only playing though. I answer. I
got a lot of love for you, Stephen A., and that's also some real shit, because again, our journey is 20+ years, and agree. We always don't have to agree with what each other said, but you've always been somebody who's willing to have that conversation, whether you've been right, whether you've been wrong, whether you feel you've been right and then you found out you were wrong, you're willing to have that conversation. And I just think that's something that people can grow from, because again, I think it's where we're always at each other's necks, whether it's media versus athletes, athletes versus athletes, media versus media, presidential versus, we're always at each other's necks. And instead of understanding that a conversation can change the world, the conversation can solve anything. So I definitely want to salute you, because you've always been willing to have that conversation. I'm always respect that.
I'm always here for you, man. Got a lot of love for you, man. I appreciate you, bro. When how often is All the Smoke on these days, man? How many episodes you doing?
We're every Thursday on All the Smoke Productions YouTube and DraftKings Network. Every Monday we release Unplugged, which is a weekly show spin around the culture. And then Friday night, WeTV, 7 p.m. Pacific, The Barnes Bunch. If you miss it there, you can stream it on All Black.
Man, we did. Listen, I watched the episode of Barnes, but you're not bad, bro. I like what I'm saying, bro. I mean, you got some potential, my brother. You got some potential, no doubt. Oh, by the way, before I let you go, you heard the news. Darvin Ham got fired as head coach of the Lakers. Within the hour.
Great dude. The coach has got to be the fall guy. I mean, obviously, I think as a head coach, and I told him that Darvin's my guy. He was an assistant with the Lakers back in the day when I was there with Kobe. But I told him this is going to be the hottest seat he's ever sat on. Good, bad, you're going to be talked about every single day. So I think he's probably learned a lot about himself and where he needs to get better as a coach. But the coach is always going to be the fall guy. It's not going to be, poorly constructed roster. He's not going to be the only fall guy. I think Vogel might fall in Phoenix, and that's going to be another fall guy. You got to start putting more pressure on management to make these decisions, because again, coaches, when I came in the league, Stephen A., coaches had a lot of power because players weren't making the money they are. Now players are making astronomical money, and the coach will always be the fall guy. So I wish Darvin Ham the best of luck. Good dude.
How did you feel about Anthony Davis? I thought Anthony Davis's comments in the post-game conference sort of sealed his fate. Like after game 2, where he said we were a bit disorganized. We didn't seem to know what we're doing. When you make that statement, that to me is when I said Darvin Ham is gone. Yeah, I knew it at that moment that Darvin Ham was gone. I
agree, especially coming from a player of his caliber.
No question. I don't think Ty Lue should stay in with the Clippers personally. I mean, he's got 1 year to go. I probably, knowing him, he probably wants out. I don't know if they'll let him out. If Ty Lue was on the market, what's the best situation for him, Phoenix or LA?
Ooh.
Lakers.
Ooh. I mean, I think he would probably want to go to the Lakers. I mean, that's down the hallway. Who doesn't want to?
But I'm asking you, in terms of your basketball expertise, looking at the roster on both squads, what do you think would be the best situation for a Ty Lue between those two selections?
I think both rosters have good teams, but they're bad rosters overall. I would go down the hallway. I would go down the hallway because it's going to be you get more credit and more opportunity, more accolades if you're able to turn the Lakers around than turn the Phoenix Suns around. And he's worked with Bron. Obviously Bron's future is up in the air. We don't really know what he's going to do, but he's worked with Bron successfully before. So very interesting. I'm also hearing my brother JJ Redick is getting some nods and one of the most brilliant minds I've ever been around. So definitely looking forward to him for him to land somewhere soon. So it's always going to be a hot seat with the Lakers. I think T. Lue knows that because he's played there and he's been coaching down the hallway for a little while, but he could definitely handle that.
All right. Matt Barnes, love you. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you for coming on the show and talking to me over these sensitive issues. I appreciate you listening to me. Thanks a lot, bro.
No doubt, bro. Have a good day.
All right, you too. The one and only Matt Barnes right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show over the digital airwaves of YouTube. You heard what he had to say. You heard what I had to say. It is what it is. I know where I stand. I know what I said. And I understand how it could be misinterpreted. But at the end of the day, it's my responsibility. I get paid to speak for a living. And I have to make sure that I am somebody who is speaking with the level of clarity that my position demands, so I don't have to have these hiccups. My issue, however, was that you disagree with me, which was what Matt Barnes did based on the information that he received. But for Steven Jackson, who's been my boy for years, to sit up there and talk about he don't F with me, to call me a snitch for doing my job. Russell Westbrook was on the basketball court. This ain't something that happened in the privacy of his home. I cover the league for a living. It's my job to speak to the NBA. I didn't call to get him suspended. I already told y'all I thought he should have been suspended, but I didn't call them to suspend him. I mean, for him to talk about me like that, for Bakari Sellers and the DL Hughleys of the world, Karen Hunter, my sister. I mean, I've taken a lot of stuff. I really, really have. And I could really, really go in on a lot of people, but that's counterproductive. Because the reality of the situation is I don't know Bakari Sellers at all, okay? In the case of DL Hughley, I've met him a few times, but that's my frat brother, Root Dog, Omega Psi Phi all day, every day. I can't believe that he just talked about me like that, but that's all right. You got to live with that. You do what you got to do. That was unfortunate. But Steven Jackson and I go back years. Years. Matt Barnes and I go back, you saw, over 20 years. Draymond Green didn't like what I said. Draymond texted me. That's why I love him so much. He had an issue. I ain't hear from nobody else. I heard from him. He called me. He texted me, rather. Told me exactly where he stood, how he felt, based on the information he received. And Karen Hunter. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I almost cried. I couldn't believe that a person who's like a sister to me that I've known for 32 years that wrapped her arms around me the day my professional career started as a journalist and taught me how to write. Who was behind me when my mother's casket was being lowered into the ground. I could not believe that there were people on her show, her namesake, talking smack about me for 3 hours. You couldn't talk junk about Karen Hunter on my show for 30 seconds. It wouldn't happen. But you know, we get over it. Everybody do what they got to do. That's the way it goes. I've said what I had to say. I appreciate Matt Barnes coming on the show. I appreciate y'all for listening and watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I thought it was very enlightening. I hope y'all found it to be the same. I wish y'all all a wonderful, happy, prosperous, healthy weekend. And I will be back, although from a different location, next week. So you'll see me then. Go New York, go New York, go, my New York Knicks. Yeah. But we'll talk more about that when the weekend's over. Until then, everybody, this is Stephen A. signing off. Peace and love.